This is where we really dive into the info and my real true experience, which is teaching video games for a historical perspective. I mean, I have a lot of background behind this, and I've been doing it for years, but this is where I really love with video games because it does teach a historical perspective with a lot of games nowadays. But the two real franchises I'm going to really focus on this are Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed franchise and History Channel's Civil War franchise. I could go into more, but it would just way overlap into time. But main thing behind Assassin's Creed story is that it goes into different time frames of history. The first one is set during the Third Crusades between an assassins versus Templars, and it's a whole conspiracy plot, but it gives you historical time spans, historical cities, historical people, and Ubisoft has done a very good job with this on every single game, making the environment look so realistic, going off of past historical records that they have done, that it makes you feel when you play the game that you're actually there and living it. It is that good. And with the historical people, their characteristics are given to them through all this research and documentation, so it makes you actually feel like you're also with those people. It is very accurate and relevant. It's pretty much spot on. The second game is another different character though, but it's still the same plot that focuses on the assassins versus the Templars. The assassins being the good guys, the Templars being the bad guys. But this time it's set in the Italian Renaissance in the late 1400s. And this game is even much better than the first one. It is much more beautiful. Going into Italy, going into Rome, Vatican City. The detail behind this thing is so much. It is just very, like, wow. And you get historical time people with this one. You get Leonardo da Vinci, Machiavelli, the Medici family, the Borgia family. There are a lot of historical people in this one. And this main game branches off into two separate games because it is so big and so vast. And lastly, the most recent game came out last month, which I beat, was Assassin's Creed 3. And this one is more recent. This one actually takes place in America instead of the other two, which takes place in the Middle East and in Europe. This one takes place in America. Right before the Civil War, it goes through the Civil War, and the year or two after the Civil War. So, not the Civil War. The American Revolution, I mean. American Revolution is a big part in this one. And Ubisoft has done an excellent job of recreating New York City from the ground up, and Boston and other areas in this game. It is extremely well done. And the historical concept behind all the major events that happen in this, the Boston Tea Party, the Battle of Yorktown, the Battle of Valley Forge, it's just spot on. It's very accurate. It's very well done. The people, way too many to count, but naming a couple off my head: George Washington, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, to name a few. There are so many behind this. It is just, this is by far the most well done Assassin's Creed game I've ever played, and the historical aspect behind it. I've done research on what they have said in the game, and it's pretty spot on. So, I mean, this is a great way to teach the kids, especially American Revolution, parts and segments by using this game. Or even, if they can't even play the game, just show them clips of the dialogue in the game or the action sequences on YouTube, and they will get it. It is a very worthwhile franchise. So, I love the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I hope they continue to do it because it is a very historical type game. Alright, so now we're going into History Channel Civil War games. Now, this one is more of a shooter type game, but the first one was made in 2006. This one puts you into the actual main battles of the Civil War. like Antietam, Chancellorsville, Fredericksburg, Battle of Gettysburg, Cold Harbor, all of them. But the main thing is you actually live through the battles and fight through the battles as if the soldiers would have, and it gives you a good round point that it makes you play as both sides. So you get both sides' perspective. So you get to play as a Confederate soldier, you get to play as a Union soldier, which is very interesting. So I mean, instead of just doing one choice, you get both. So you get to see both how both sides worked and how both sides did their things during the war. And then they made another sequel, which wasn't as good as the first one, which was called The Secret Missions, which was really more covert missions that ultimately affected such battles as Gettysburg, as Cold Harbor. And that one was more one choice as your player. You only were more mainly Union soldiers, but it was still an interesting backdrop behind it to show you what happened behind the scenes. So I mean, that is also another decent game for historical perspective, but the first game is much better in actually showing what caused it and how it turned out ultimately. So the last two videos that I'll be doing are the cons behind teaching video games in the classroom, and the last one will be the future of gaming for more mobile and tablets.